a week after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you were a week after because there was a confusion that particular week, I remember. When
Yes, I will definitely check that out. I'm glad you mentioned it. We will go back to Greenwich Mean Time. So I think we also go back an hour. So I think for 1 week, you might be 1 hour earlier. And then the following week, we will be back to this, I think. But let's check that out and then make a notice or something. Yeah. So, Brother Sam, hello, I'm Shanti. I don't think we've met before. I think that looks like a flag of Ghana.
Kwame, yeah.
Brother Sam, I don't know if you can come into the. Maybe you can't turn on your microphone, but if you can, feel welcome to say hello. Ah, here we are. Hello.
Hello, Shanti.
Shanti, nice to meet
Ghana.
Is that Accra?
Nice to meet you. Sumenya, but we'll go to center in Accra, but we are in the town called Sumenya.
Wonderful. Wonderful to have you here. Most welcome.
We have Baba's Barven here, Baba's home. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Yeah. Well, wonderful to have Africa represented. And Cicely Ben, I think you are in Africa, but which part? Are you back in Ghana as well? Or are you in
here?
You're in the same room.
I'm in Ghana now, brother.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, we're in the same house. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, there's another brother. He'll come in a second.
Okay, great.
There's 3 of us are here in this. Yes.
Yeah, it's always great to have that African vibe, isn't it? We've got several continents. I mean, time zone permitting, it's several continents here. And Juliet, Ben, good morning to you.
Hi.
Good morning, brother Shanti. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
From Jamaica.
Yeah. So we got New York State here, Trinidad, Jamaica, and Ghana, but quite an international feel there, also in Ghana. And we're in England, so that's a good scope. And I know people like on the other side, like New Zealand, Australia, do watch this afterwards, but it's about 10 p.m. now in their time zone, so they don't join us, but they do connect afterwards. So Shanti to you all, and those of you joining in later on through the YouTube, maybe you're tuning in for the first time. My name is Shailen. Shortly, my mum, Ranjan Ben, will join us as well, and we are students of the London Centre in England. And these chit chats are really designed for regular BK students to ask questions, share reflections, and we usually take up different topics week by week, but it's also fine for people to suggest a topic as we go along, what's in their mind. I'd set everyone something to churn on and experiment with about 8 weeks ago, which was surrounding silences. And I'm interested in both your churnings and also your experiences. So what I was wondering as I was thinking on this topic was, when we say silence, we use it as quite a generic term, just generally, silence. But I'm wondering, when I say silence, do I mean the same thing as you? Has every BK got a different experience of silence? Then I was thinking about what we hear in the Murlis. Good morning, Barbara Ben, as well. Good to see you. I'm Shanti. Welcome.
Shanti, brother.
Shanti. So I'm wondering, we hear from Baba, don't we? Shiv Baba is the ocean of silence, or the ocean of peace. We hear the home is the land of silence. And today we had this week we had some interesting imagery about the Tower of Silence, didn't we? the soul world is the tower of silence where the ocean of silence lives. That's interesting. So I've been playing around with that imagery this week. Then we often have a narrative around the queen who was looking for her necklace. And Baba says that people are always asking for peace on the path of Bhakti. They're looking for peace. But peace is the garland around your neck. And Baba means that it's already with you. It's within you. It's somewhere there. So I'm wondering whether that silence inside of the soul is a different type of silence. I was then thinking around context. So we as souls, we start off in the soul world. And Baba says to us there, you're not thinking, you're in your seed stage. So you're not thinking, you're not doing anything. You have to be with a body to be expressing your role in the drama. So that's that feels like it would be a different silence. So there's silence inside of the soul now when we're in the drama. But it feels like it might be a different experience of silence when we're in the soul world. I'm wondering what you think on that. And then Babbitt says to us that the golden age is also the land of peace. So in his narratives, he often keeps it simple. This is the land of sorrow. The soul world is the land of peace. And the golden age is the land of happiness. So we have several Murlis where he keeps it really simple, but one of his main narratives is you cannot have peace in the land of sorrow. You cannot have happiness in the land of sorrow. Everything that you have here is temporary, which makes it tainted. And so you have peace for a while, but it won't be permanent. You'll have happiness for a while, but any moment it can be disturbed. So Baba always insists that it cannot be something which is attainable in this land of sorrow. So he draws this contrast. But then probably a BK, when I hear it in the Murli, I think probably a BK might have asked Baba, but do we not have peace also in the golden age? So then you'll hear Baba say in the Murlis, well, yeah, of course, you have peace in the golden age because you have security, you have fullness inside of yourself, and you have the security of unlimited resource, the security of an absence of untimely death, a security of no accidents, no bad weather. So you are at peace in the golden and silver age. And I'm thinking about, well, what's that feeling of peace and how does it differ from the peace we might experience now at confluence age when, of course, everything is designed to disturb us. We had a couple of blessings in the last week or 10 days where Baba said that you have to develop your controlling power. You have to be able to control your mind and intellect and take it up to Shri Baba in the midst of adverse situations. That's when you know you got it. Yeah, I mean, it can be hard enough to control our mind sitting in Baba's room, right? Even to concentrate in Baba's room can be a challenge. And Baba's saying, in the midst of these difficult circumstances, you got to be able to do it then. That's when you know you got it. You got the mastery. So that seems like another level of peace to me. You know, the ability to stay in that peace, to stay and to go to that silence in the midst of great disturbance seems a great challenge. In the golden age, we're not battling anything, are we? It's just, we're just peaceful. So it's like a peacefulness of the absence of disturbance. It's here, we're all damaged, aren't we? All souls are damaged. So our sense of peace is like almost, for example, we've all seen how souls come into Baba's house for the first time, and they begin to say, oh, there's something here. There's something here. There's a peace here that I was looking for. And that's because of a condition of damage, isn't it? So it's like they're moving away. They're having their first experience away from the damage. So that feels like it would be a different peace to the one in the golden age, where the soul has never known trauma. So you're not trying to become peaceful. It's like it's your natural inherent state. Then about 15, 20 years ago, I was churning a lot on Shiv Baba. Like if someone asks me, why do I do this? What's the purpose? Certainly one purpose is to become completely pure and heal myself and clean myself out. But I would say ultimately, it's getting to know Shiv Baba. For me, I think I've spent births wanting to know God. And I've got an opportunity now, once in the cycle, to really know him. So for me, the disaster would be ending this confluence age, and I've not known God as he is, what he is, in all his forms, and then experienced all of that too. And so hence I spent a lot of time thinking about Shiv Baba. Who is he? And one of the things I used to play with was thinking about the condition of Shiv Baba's mind. We hear, comes up in the Murli in different narratives where Baba often refers to these Sanskrit words, that Shiv Baba is a Janma, Shiv Baba is a Karta, Shiv Baba is a Bhokta, Shiv Baba is a Sochta. And these are words that sannyasis may use, and devotees just speak them rather than really thinking about them. But there's a lot of scholarship on these words. And Baba says that Shiv Baba is a Janma in the sense that he doesn't take rebirth. He is a Karta in the sense that he doesn't have his own body where he comes and does and plays a role like we do. He is a Bhokta in that he doesn't experience a reward for anything that he does. He is a Sochta because he doesn't think the way we do. It's not that type of thinking. So it's really interesting. So there's Murlis where Baba breaks these things down. And then you think about our mind and how our mind works, and it's conditioned by multiple things, isn't it? Internal and external. It's not a neutral, plain piece of paper. It's a highly conditioned mind. But Baba was saying in yesterday's Murli as well, how Shiv Baba doesn't come into rebirth like this. You've got your cycle of being worship worthy to being a worshipper, and then you go back to being worship worthy. Even Lakshmi and Narayan souls, they go through that cycle. But what would the mind be like of a soul who doesn't go through that? That has never had attachments, never experienced loss, to really think about that silence. And when I was sitting with Baba a couple of weeks ago, and I was just had that thought in my mind that, Baba, what's the difference between your silence and my silence, our silence? And the thought that just came in my mind was, it's deeper. It's deeper in Shiva. This is the ocean. So although we're all points of light, Shiv Baba's mind, if you just bring it in front of you now, the mind of the ocean of silence. Feel the depth. Now, this is a mind that's always sitting at the bottom of the most silent ocean. And imagine the silence if you're sitting at the bottom of the ocean. And then that's what Shiv Baba's mind is like. A mind that never absorbs any impressions. Like we are, as human souls, we're always impressionable, aren't we? And Baba says to us, the soul is not nirlip, it's not immune to the effect of action. We are constantly being affected by everything. Like inside 5 minutes, we can be affected by so many things. But Shiv Baba's mind is never affected. He comes into connection with us, but we don't affect him. He doesn't change his stage. So this is a silence that is permanent as well. Like the silence we experience does change, doesn't it? Our mind is always having different experiences throughout the cycle. But Shiv Baba's mind is continually silent. And I always marvel when I think of Shiv Baba, which I hope I think of Shiv Baba a lot. But just keeping him in front of me as I'm speaking with you, I marvel at this mind. A mind that has never had an unnecessary thought. I think we even lose perspective as to what is a necessary thought, ourselves. I think many of the thoughts we think are necessary, probably aren't necessary. But this is a soul who's never had a thought without a purpose. With us, like we heard in today's Murli as well, children don't give sorrow in your thoughts, words, and actions. But with Shiv Baba, is there a difference? With us, we're like one thing in our thoughts, another thing in our feelings, another thing in how we speak, another thing in how we do. But Shiv Baba is transparent, right? So would there be a gap between the thought and the action for him? And I think Shiva's thoughts are actions. Often our thoughts are just not powerful enough, so we've got to do something before we have an impact in the drama, or we have to say something. But Shiv Baba's thoughts work. His thoughts are a blessing. In Hindi and in Urdu, Sufism, Hinduism, Sikhism, when you use, like it comes up in the Murli, God's karma, God's actions, like it will be translated as like the divine activities of God or the God's karma. But actually when you sing the praises, if you listen to the religious songs where they use the word karma for God, it would always be translated as blessing. So there'll be like religious prayers and songs where they say that my life is contented because of your karma. And what they mean is your blessing. So God's thoughts are his karma, are his blessing. His every thought is a blessing. So this is a mind where every thought is a blessing. I mean, I marvel at this mind. With Shiv Baba, he only comes into words at confluency. and every word of the Murli is a blessing. So even the expressed thoughts are a blessing. The subtle thoughts are a blessing. When he's in his avyakt stage, he's on his unmanifested physical, so still it's a blessing. I was then also thinking about the subtle regions. So we hear from trance messengers like Daddy Gulzar that when she used to go into trance, she used to adopt her angelic form when she went into the subtle region. So I heard her say that, I think it was Sister Jayanti once having an interview with her, and or it might have been other as well. And the interviewer was asking her that, what language is being used there? Because Daddy Janki used to say that in the subtle region, the angel doesn't really have, like, it's not physical body features in a sense. It's light, and you can see the eyes and just a little smile. It's like that type of. So how does language work? And there's Murli's where Baba says the soul world is silence, the subtle region is movie, and this world is talking. So he says it's like a silent movie. So what's the language? And Daddy Gulzar gave an interesting answer. She said, because I myself am in my angelic body, I can understand the language of the angel Brahma. But if I were down here in my normal body, I wouldn't be able to hear the language. So I thought that was interesting. That was fascinating. And she says it's the language of the eyes. You're in your angelic form, just looking into the eyes of Bapdada. And it's like those thoughts are coming into you. Like I get it. I understand. So it's not an expressed language. It's the language of the eyes. And then as we hear from the messengers, Baba uses imagery a lot there, doesn't he? He gives a vision of some scene and they come and describe that scene to us. So it's quite visual, isn't it? And so the language of the subtle region, it's not the same as being in the seed form in the soul world. It is an expressed silence. It's a language of using these angelic thoughts. Baba often says to us that the angel Brahma is sustaining you. He brought Brahma into the subtle region so he can use his power of thought to help all the Brahmins. So there's something there about the silence of the angel that also seems to be a different frequency, maybe that's the right word to use, to the frequency of the soul world and of this world. So I'm wondering, when Shiv Baba is using his power of thoughts when he's in the soul world, is that a different frequency of thought to when he uses his power of thought in the subtle region? And then what about when he comes into the body down here and gives us drishti? Is that a different frequency of silence as well? So let me stop there. I hope I've given you lots of stimulus to think on. As I say, I'm interested in both your churnings as well as your experiences. So you may feel that you haven't fully experienced something, but you're thinking about it. So don't worry if you're feeling that I haven't fully, I'm still working on, they're still unsure. In these chit chats, you can be unsure. So don't worry. We're not, I mean, I suppose it's my logic training as well, that we spend our time in universities just creating questions. So we just ask more questions. When those are answered, we ask more questions. So learning is a never-ending process. We are students for life. So don't feel you have to have answers in these chit chats. You can share your underdeveloped churnings as well as your developed churnings, your underdeveloped experiences as well as your developed experiences. So let me hand over to all of you. Anyone can begin sharing when you're ready.
Shanti.
I'm Shanti Babra.
I used to be always fascinated with this astral plane, even before GAN. And of course, because of an out-of-body experience I had. And when you told us about experimenting with this silence, things happened and start unfolding. I had a very interesting experience yesterday. The body was not doing so well due to something that I ate that I shouldn't have eaten. And the thought came not to eat it, but you know, I paid the price. But it was so intense. It was like I mixed some of the Thursday bogue with it. Maybe I thought that would help cancel out the effect, but it was like leftover porridge that I forgot to put in the fridge. So anyway, about midday, I just started with this, not feeling well, and the vomiting. But I always remember that silence. Like anything is about to happen, just going to silence. That was something that I practiced, and I started back practicing a lot. And I find that it helped shift whatever's happening. And also, what helped too is going beyond sound and just trying to experiment with what it feels like. I thought of, I was reading an article about the astronauts, how they have to use a mic, something like a phone, to communicate when they're up there, because it's beyond sound, beyond gravity. And I was thinking, boy, Shiv Baba spending all that time beyond sound, beyond gravity. And maybe you can explain, not today, but another time, how Shiv Baba role started from the Copper Age, you know, and giving visions. Again, beyond sound, I think about in the Golden Age, we don't celebrate. We celebrate the coronation, but there's not the celebration like all these different festivals, because the soul is so happy, it's experiencing supersensuous joy in that realm. So again, beyond the senses, and to me, is that, you know, you talk about peace, experiencing peace. So peace and happiness in the Golden Age seem to come together. And beyond sound, it seemed to be a part of our innate quality. You know, I used to spend a lot of time in silence, even before GAN, and it used to feel so empowering. And I started practicing that awareness a lot these days, going beyond sound just before I eat anything or drink anything, before I take, you know, put on any, carry out any activity. I find that that power of silence is something that the soul needs. And so it's becoming more, I'm experimenting more with it, but it is very powerful. It's a very powerful state. Om Shanti.
Shanti, thank you for sharing. I really enjoyed that. That was fascinating. Really good points that you've raised there. And great that you're experimenting and it's working. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to come in?
Oh, Shanti.
Did you have it?
I don't know if I just had lots of different thoughts. A lot of it triggered by what you were saying. You asked the question, is it the same silence that Baba uses in the soul world and when he's communicating with us? And I feel it's like Baba is so adaptive that when he communicates with us now as we are in these bodies on earth, that he connects with us on our wavelength. Because yes, I need to make some effort so that I can elevate myself from the gross and the body consciousness. So I need to go into a degree of soul consciousness to meet Baba. But he's degraded his level of the word you used, to be on the same wavelength in order for me to connect with him. So it's like he puts the hand down and pulls me up to a level where I can understand or get what he wants to say to me. That's one of the things I've thought about. And then I was thinking how in my life, Baba's given me an opportunity to experience that beautiful, I love silence. And one of the things I found very challenging coming to Jamaica to live after leaving the UK was how noisy it is here. It's noisy on all levels. It's like people can't deal with silence. So there's constant chatter, very loud laughter, very heavy music, very loud music. And so I had to find a way to be in it, but not be of it. And so that forced me to, use silence, that silence I use in meditation. So when I'm there, when I'm saying Oshirish, which is really noisy, and the noise isn't even just the audio noise, it's the visual noise as well. And so having to put myself in a state of mind where I'm blind to the visual noise and deaf to the audio noise as much as I can. And the other thought I had was, I used to do coaching, and there was a point at which when I'm engaged on a one-to-one with another individual, and I say something and they would say, but you're just talking everything that's in my mind. And it's like, I could hear their thoughts. In that deep silence, I could hear their thoughts. And then it made me think, oh yes, in the soul world or in the golden age, or we don't need words. We don't need the physical words because we can hear each other. And I used to experience that a lot in Global House, that, you know, you'd be in conversation with someone and you can hear what they're going to say. So that ability to really go beyond the noise at a very deep level is something that we can experience in this Brahmin life, but it's to stay there and as much as possible. So those were the sort of things that were coming into my thoughts. And you asked the question last week, is it the same silence in the golden age? Is it the same silence in the soul world? Is it the same silence around the cycle? And I'm thinking for Baba, it probably is. And the thought of never having a negative thought, just always being that clear persona, that clear individual, like seeing through glass, so there's no taintedness. And thank God for God that, you know, we have him, and he's he can always be there for us and be, I'm finding my vocabulary difficult to recall, just be that example and that lighthouse that never changes, that we can always aspire to go to. And this final thought hasn't really, I don't see the connection, but the thought keeps coming to me is, you know, Baba says in a lot of the Murlis, basically don't give up because you're coming to the end of the journey. And it's almost like, you know, sometimes I get so tired. It's like you're swimming and you're going towards a destination, but you can't see it. You can't see it yet. You just know that you have to keep going and getting tired, and your feet are wanting to touch, you know, to go down. And the words, just keep going. The destination is close by. And yeah, so that thought keeps coming because it feels like there's a great desire just to give up. Yeah, that's it from me. But
Thank you very much. I think they're all great points. All of them made sense to me. And just what you were saying about catching each other's thoughts now, and how we can do that sometimes intuitively, even though we are damaged and the other soul is damaged. So as you're saying, in the soul world, where everyone is whole, there's no baggage, then maybe it's a bit more like the trance messengers experience in the subtle region, where the language of the eyes, you know, there's such clarity. There's no, like, you're not trying to, like, here we would feel exposed, wouldn't we? We don't want people gearing into us, apart from Baba. But in this golden age, no one's had any mixed experiences. What have you got to hide? So that transparency allows us to catch each other's thoughts. So maybe it's more like that. Yeah, thank you very much for those thoughts. It all made sense to me. Would anyone else like to come in?
Shanti.
Shanti. Is that you, Cicely Ben?
Yes, brother.
Okay, yes.
Shanti to everyone. I won't put my camera on because we're a bit unstable here at the moment.
No, yeah, no problem.
So I won't put. But I just want to say, first of all, I want to just share. I came to Ghana actually a year ago, this month, the 11th of September. And when I came, and it all relates to silence. That in that silence, when I was coming here and stuff, it came to me that I should create this place for brothers, like, you know, so brothers can come and stay. And naturally, it has happened that the brothers are staying in this house. And as you know, Shailen Bai, I was in Egypt. So Egypt really is my base in Africa now. But I'm here, come back to just, you know, get things sort of really tidy things up where I left off a year ago. And it's really very fantastic. The brothers are here. While I left, another brother came, I should say, Brother Aaron, he'll say hello. And it just came to me that this is what I should do. And I've rented a 4-bedroom house here, and I've rented it. They listen to Baba's Murli every day. We go on Sunday. Tomorrow we'll go to the center, to Accra for class, 2-hour trip. We go into Accra, depending on traffic, 2 to 3 hour trip. And so that's what's happened. But I just wanted to share that because I thought that would be nice to share. And also the silence is, I love silence myself. And it's been a natural thing for me even before coming into Kian. And I have the very natural way of going into silence, even when there's noise, because Africa is noisy, like the soul was saying about Jamaica's noisy. Africa is noisy. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear church loud, loud, loud. You hear the church. So it's like very noisy, and someone's calling out, saying something, but I'm able to go beyond that noise, which I'm very fortunate to be able to do, because otherwise it can distract and disturb your mind. But I would like Brother Aaron to say hello as well.
Thank you, Sister.
Hello to everyone.
Hello.
Great to meet you, Brother Aaron.
We'll put the camera on for a bit. There he is, come close. Yeah.
Hi. Hello.
I'm happy to meet you as well. At the right time also.
Yeah, Brother Aaron, welcome to the
Yeah.
Brahmin family. I can already see from your forehead that
Thank-
you're a soul who's going to go last so fast, and you're going to go first. So keep
Very
going.
much so,
Keep
brother.
flying.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Om Shanti.
I'm sure. And thank you, Sister
Thank you,
Liva.
Om Shanti.
Yeah, great to hear that
No,
news. Yes. Great. Thank you very much. That was lovely. Would anyone else like to come in?
Om Shanti.
Shanti.
Everything that all the sisters said, they're very valuable. And the way that you turned this morning, it resonated a whole lot for all of us in all the different scenarios of silence. But when I think about it, I love my own company. I love to be in my own silence. Wherever I go, I do things on my own. And in that way, it's easier to figure out things quicker, to understand what is needed, what is not needed. The silence part is, it's the hardest for me when you have to clear the clutter of the mind, because there is so much responsibility that you're constantly thinking about what to do here, what to do there. But I realized that I have come to a stage where I could just clear all that and just be alone in silence with Baba. And then you understand what you have to do, and not to worry, because drama is playing its part anyhow. But the worrying with all the clutter is not there anymore, because of you clear yourself completely of it. And that silence was a difficult thing to come to. And then during Amrit Vela, when you reach a point where you do Mansat Seva, that those thoughts, as soon as you want to, send light to a particular soul because of all the troubles and torments they're going through, you realize that I am at a point where I am thinking about his soul and not taking that benefit from Baba. You just go off course, and you understand what is happening, and then you bring yourself back into that silence where you're supposed to be, where you could be most effective. So it's a learning process, and it's a process where you have to put effort, a lot of effort into, because we are in that stage where we are effort makers still. So the silence going into Madhuban, when you feel like you want to have that time alone, going into the pilgrimage places helps a lot. There's where you find a lot of silence, because you're saying, this is where God came, this is where he walked, this is where I am, and you are his chosen child. So you stay with him in that silence when you want to be in that complete. So the different areas that you touched, I didn't look at it like that, but now it's good to go into those different areas and think about the different of silence. So that's my input on it. Shanti.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sister. Thank you for being very honest, and I think sharing all of our journeys, that as you've all been sharing, I could resonate with what Juliet Ben was saying as well, and Cicely Ben, because when I returned from India back to the UK, that's what strikes me, how quiet the UK is, even the city. in the UK feel a lot quieter than India anywhere. So I understand that. And I think, as Lynette Ben, as you were just speaking just now, it was coming into my mind that in this world, silence is an absence of something. So it's an absence of the noise. Earlier, Barbara Burnham was using the term beyond sound. And so in this world, I don't think silence is a substance, right? It's the absence of a substance, of noise, of sound. But I think in the other two worlds, silence is not the absence of something, but silence is itself a substance. And I think that's probably the, as you're saying, our first step is to go beyond the sound of our own mind, the sound of others. And then we're not only going into, like in Bhakti as well, we would have experimented with meditations for sure. And a lot of that experience would have been around the absence of something. So Baba said something this morning in the Murli that sannyasis also renounce everything, but they don't actually get anything. Whereas you children, you stay within your household, but you get a lot because we're actually gaining silence as a substance. It's not just going into a cave and sitting there and feeling peaceful, or just having some sort of like sannyas, or maybe being monkish is like you're detaching from society, really. So there's a peace in detachment. But this is actually, Baba uses this term, accumulating the power of silence. And so silence, I think, is a substance. Shiv Baba is the ocean of silence. The soul world is the land of silence. It's actually made of silence. And so as we go into those experiments, and I think what you're describing, I'm just going to put up in the chat in a minute, links to YouTube videos in case you haven't come across them, that they, for the last 2 or 3 years, brothers in Madhuban have put up cameras with 24-hour streams of the Tower of Peace, Baba's room, Baba's hut, and the history hall. And so Lynette Ben was reminding us of something. Ranjan Ben loves that a lot.
I go like, was it Judith Ben or Lynette Ben goes to? Yeah.
Yeah, Lynette Ben was just reminding us that.
And Baba is still there. Baba is.
The silence is there. So we heard that in last week's Murli as well, didn't we? And in these Bhog messages about Daddy Prakash Mani, that Baba was saying that in Shantiban, people will come later on and experience Daddy's vibration through the tower, through the place. So silence as a substance, you see that as we accumulate the power of silence, if you go to Madhuban, you're not just experiencing the absence of sound, and that's why you like going, but you're actually experiencing Brahma Baba making Shiv Baba's silence a substance down here, and it gets filled within the material, within the place. So Brother Nirvana was sharing once that Brahma Baba used to just have all sorts of extra yoga, like they would sometimes be walking in Madhuban and they see Baba sitting somewhere and he's sitting in yoga. And he'd obviously had so much yoga, he was in his karmatite stage, and Rabbi asked Baba that, why do you carry on? Like, you probably had enough yoga. Like, why do you need to carry on having yoga? And Brahma Baba said, I'm having yoga for the children that are yet to come to Mother. So he was farsighted. He was thinking, we're going to be coming and experiencing the vibration of the yoga of the soul of Brahma. You know, the yoga of the soul of Mama, you know, Saraswati and Brahma, Jagatpita and Jagadamba. You know, it's a unique connection, isn't it? And so they bring that silence as a tangible entity into this world. So yeah, just as you were speaking, and it reminded me. So I'm going to put up the YouTube channel links, and we often, for example, evening yoga, we might spend it at the Tower of Peace, and you're watching a live feed. So it's really like visiting. And I was reminded that during lockdown, it really sustained Ranjan and I. So we were, I think, having Amrit Vela in Baba's room, you know, evening yoga at the Tower of Peace. And you could feel Baba's vibrations, the vibrations of Madhaban transmitting through the screen, and we were really feeling it.
And also one Murli, Avyak Murli Bap Dada said, if you are feeling a bit down, or, you know, you go, if something is troubling you, then go around these four pilgrimages.
Why don't we, now that Lynette Ben's reminded us, why don't we read that more in the next week? And we can have a session.
Yeah, and so it's Baba's heart is like a friend. So Baba is still there. Baba's presence is there until we go back. So, you know, but it's a friend, and you can talk to a friend, you know, whatever is troubling you, everything. Baba is not going to go and tell everybody else, but he will give you so it's the friend. And then Baba's room is when you have this thought of becoming Bap Saman, equal to the Father, you know, and so take those vibrations. And then Tower of Peace, you know, there's 4 pillars like peace and knowledge, purity and might. And that way, and then in history hall, any waste thoughts or anything like that, just give it and just sit in, you know. It's like there are those pictures as well.
Remember the knowledge.
Cycle and remember
Spin
the
the
knowledge.
cycle.
Spin, sit inside. So Baba said, just.
So that's the venue where these Murlis we're hearing was spoken. So you're spinning the cycle. So Baba had said that's a great yoga experimentation. So thank you, Lynette Ben, for reminding us of that. We'll take that up further next time. Would anyone else like to come in and share something?
Shanti.
Shanti.
It really is enlightening, all the discussion. My thoughts has always been that peace is influenced by, or the level of peace influenced by the level of silence. And all of us, all Brahmins more than the ordinary soul, have that awareness of silence within us. It's just emerging it. And for me, before coming into Gyan, if no one spoke to me 11 in the morning, I am happy. And I always put it down as being impatient because I'm not able to really entertain too much conversation early. Even my mother used to complain. I remember being in the kitchen with her and she would be asking questions and I will not answer, which really, only when I came into Baba's knowledge, then I would have handled it differently, because she herself had remarked, you know, before you were doing this, I couldn't ask you. I really appreciate it in the morning.
Sorry, Ambika Ben, you just broke up there. Can you repeat that bit?
Complete silence. No communication.
Just broke up. Are you still there, Ambika?
Yeah. So being in Soulsville, always comes. Are you hearing me now? It's still breaking up. I think your bandwidth is a bit low.
My suggestion, Ambika Ben, is you turn off your camera and then we can hear you.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, it's better.
I'm not seeing it in red. So I always felt being in the soul's world, absolutely no communication, but this feeling of this open love and just absorbing. And as you were saying, Baba doesn't have the presence of the world, means he didn't go through the cycle. So his silence is not influenced by any pull. He doesn't have the bondages that would pull us. Our thoughts would be pulled in different direction. So Baba is completely silent. And for us, Baba always tell us, to become equal to him. And that's where our aim also has to be. But because we are constantly bombarded or influenced, the silence is not very long. We get back into expansions at time. And more I'm recognizing how much waste has an effect on the silence of the soul. My thought also while I was is that for God and in the home of silence, does God communicate from the home of silence? Now, I know one of the sessions that we had, it was asked whether the subtle region always existed. And we said that the subtle region has a different purpose for the Brahmin soul. So I am thinking whether or not that silence is interrupted at all. Meaning in the home of all souls, I always felt there were no thoughts. There will be no thoughts. There's just the feeling of peace and love and absorbing. And that's where we absorb our power within ourselves. So that silence for me is how I feel it is, what I visualize it to be. In this region, there's no language, that there is this how you should say, not realization, but this knowing whatever is being communicated, it is interpreted by the soul, what is meant to be. And similarly, for the golden age, yes, we will have words, but there's no wastage and it's minimum. So the silence there is also powerful. But it is, my whole thing of silence is this feeling of this inner peace that is impacted. It is your peace really is influenced. Your level of peace is influenced by your silence. So for me, the visualization that I've always felt that soul's will, there's no communication. It's just that I would like to have it clarified. The stage from copper age going out, how does Baba communicate? I know he gives the soul the visions, but silence also, I felt that silence, no matter what we are going through, even on a physical level, is also healing. Because now you're not impacted, the more silence you are, you're not impacted by any negativity or any influence of the world that is draining you. So that your own power is also helping you to heal on a physical level as well. So basically that's my thought on the silence. But I always felt that rarely soul, there was no communication, just complete silence. Om Shanti.
Yes, I think that was many useful points there. I like this distinction and connection between silence and peace. That peace is almost like applied silence. In a sense, it's your practical stage, but you've got to have that internal silence accumulated. So I think that was very useful as well. And I like that you're using this word absorbing, as we go beyond the practicing, going beyond thinking into a stage of absorbing. And I think that that's nice to think about. I don't know for sure. So I think that's something that all of us can churn on, that we know that Shiv Baba plays his role from the copper in giving visions. The question is, does he come into a subtle region and then give visions from there, or does he do it all from the soul world? If he's doing it from the soul world, then he's using his power of thought in some way, or how does he do it? Or is it just that being the lord of the three worlds, in a sense, there's no time and space, there's no distance, so is it something to do with that? And actually he can be in these multiple places as this, he's also the seed of the tree, so he has this connection with the whole tree all the time. And so he can just touch the intellect and with a vision. So maybe, is it something to do with that? But even that is a conscious act, isn't it? He does say he's consciously acting. Someone gives some charity in God's name. He says that he also then gives some sort of a bonus, some sort of an extra bit into that. Doesn't just leave it to karma. So something for everyone to churn on, and then we can explore it further, I think, in a future session. I'm also interested that we have visions in the golden and silver age, that we leave one body, it's time to leave this body, and you're going to go and become a baby. But Shiv Baba doesn't have a role in giving those visions. His role starts from the copper. But yet he says to us, I'm not giving you the key to divine vision. So are those different types of visions? So we can maybe have a session on visions another week. And then I think as you're pointing out that I really like this point that you're raising, that silence is healing. And I think that's a very, very good point. That just like with the body, there's a certain environment that healing takes place in. And ideally, we would want our recuperation in some sort of place of healing. I was sharing with you that 2 or 3 months ago, Ranjan Ben and I went to that town of Harrogate in Yorkshire in England. And that was famously a place of healing in Victorian England, the early 20th century too. So the doctor would prescribe you, go to Harrogate for 2 weeks. It was, you have to go and drink the water, the mineral water there, and be in that environment. And you had to go and walk in the park and listen to the band playing music. Like it was all part, it was your environment that healed you. It wasn't like a substance as such, it was that whole environment. So as you're saying, how does the soul heal? It needs that environment of silence. It needs to go beyond the influences of this world in order to heal. So I think that's a very, very good point. So thank you very much. Would anyone else like to come in and share something? Okay.
Hi.
Hello, Malaben. I'm Shanti.
Hello. Sorry, I'll just turn on my camera in a minute.
No problem.
Just wanted to share the small little experiments in silence. And what I found was there is a big link between silence and expectations. The noise in the mind, for me, that is silence. And when there is a lot of expectations, and you expect that because, once you decide, okay, I'm going to experiment silence for the next couple of hours, for instance. So I just gave myself little short periods. And in those periods, if somebody spoke or said something, etc., or, from the office, the phone calls, etc., etc., and I found that was actually disturbing. And then I said, no, this can't be it, because Shiv Baba always says, this practice of silence has to be in the midst of sound, because that's what's to be expected towards the end. And then I shifted the thoughts to saying, actually, get to that point where it's a complete stillness in the midst of noise. And when that shift in thought occurred, that experience, I experienced that, but albeit in very, very small, just few minutes, few seconds. But when it got to that point of that stillness, then I felt it was like a complete freedom. That was the experience. But it's really, really short, and haven't quite experimented on the angelic form of silence, and would appreciate some guidance on that from Shanti.
Well, congratulations on your experiments. That's great success that you were able to experience what you did, and you were able to challenge yourself to do it while you're working and performing actions. And I like this connection you're making, that silence gives the feeling of freedom. You know, how many births have we searched for freedom? In so many actions, so many roles we've played. And what is Baba teaching us? Silence creates freedom. And I think that that is very, very important for us to remember. I think you know, I myself am experimenting with these things, so I don't want to claim any expertise at all. This week, I've more, actually not just this week, these last few months, I've been experimenting more with the soul world than with the subtle region. So let me come back to you later in a few months' time, because I feel like I'm in more of a mindset of the soul world than with the subtle region. Although every day at Murli time, that's really my time for the subtle region. So for many years, I've had the practice of visualizing Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba in the forehead of whatever is the photo or the picture when someone is speaking the Murli. So I used to be a student at Global Corporation House, and there's Baba's pictures at the back of the stage, and the sisters are sitting at the front of the stage. And my vision was always on the back picture, and just visualizing Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba coming into the forehead. And what are they speaking? And then just earlier we were talking about the history hall. And so I then began, as I saw photos, and as you know, I try and bring across to all of you the context of Murli. You know, what was it like there? If you were sitting there in the 1960s, what was that? And that's because of many years of experiment with forgetting that I was in Global Corporation House or wherever, but I'm in the history hall, listening to the Murli and visualizing the angelic form of Brahma and Babdada have come, and I'm there right in front of Baba. And over the years, it's become very intuitive for me that as I'm hearing the Murli, like today, I can see Baba's facial expression of the point as I'm hearing the Murli. And so I hope I can then convey that to all of you. Like, what's the feeling behind the point? So some of that is actually, it's as if I can see the eyes and the face of how it was spoken as it's being read. And that's been, so in that sense, I suppose that's my subtle region bit every day. But more this week has been about this tower of silence. So the day Baba spoke about the tower of silence, I was thinking about, you know, what's that experience like, and seeing the soul world as a tower. Now, towers are very important in Bhakti. Towers and pillars, aren't they? They're very important. You go right around the world. Like Cicely Ben has just come back from Egypt, and my overwhelming experience or memory of visiting Egypt was the temple at Karnak. And these huge pillars are still there as to where that temple stood. And so pillars, towers, these are very important in Bhakti. And Baba is talking about the tower there. And when the daddies and dadas were thinking about how to memorialize Brahma Baba. It was actually these Murlis where Baba began talking about the Tower of Peace, the Tower of Silence. They began to say, well, that really sums up our experience with Brahma Baba. Not only is the soul world a tower of silence, but he was walking around in such a powerful stage of yoga. He was a tower of silence. So they created this tower of silence, this tower of peace. In Hindi, the word Shanti means silence and peace. It's the same. So this tower of silence is the memorial of Brahma, because from this imagery of these Murlis. So towers are important. And as I was sitting with the soul world, so we got this other imagery, haven't we, of Baba saying that the land of Brahm is unlimited, just like this universe down here is unlimited. There's no end to it. He sometimes also says that about the ocean, that they'll never reach the end of the ocean. Like, no matter how you go deeper into, there's only so far humans can go, but it could be just carrying on going. So it's just limitless in that sense. So I was just feeling how the soul world on one side is very deep and it's very high. So the tower of silence, it's like it's a never-ending tower. It's just very high, but it's also very deep. So somehow it gave me a different feeling. And then we have these different legends in literature and Bhakti scripture of someone living at the top of a tower. Like even in children's stories, there'll be like a princess or something living at the top of a tower. And Baba saying Shiv Baba lives in this tower of silence. So even as I'm speaking to you now, I'm just holding that image of this ocean of silence, living in this tower of silence, like his tower, this tower of silence, and I'm like visiting him in his tower. So that's been a nice feeling. So I'm at the moment playing with those things. So let me come back to you with other things.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Would anyone else like to come in? Okay, so let's hear a Murli on this topic, and then if you've got any thoughts afterwards, feel welcome to share.
Om Shanti, good morning to all. This is the Avyak Bapdada Murli, 18th November 1987, 18/11/1987. Baba says the method to accumulate the power of silence, the stage of being introverted and in solitude. The method to accumulate the power of silence, the stage of being introverted and in solitude. Today, the Almighty Authority Bapdada is looking at his Shakti army. This spiritual Shakti army is a unique army. It is called the spiritual army, but it has especially the power of silence and it is a non-violent army that gives peace. So today, Bap Dada was looking at every child who is a bestower of peace. To what extent each one has accumulated the power of silence. So Baba was looking at us. This power of silence is the special weapon of the spiritual army. All of you are those who hold this weapon, but you are number-wise. The power of silence will make the whole world peaceful from peaceless. It will transform not only human souls, but it will also transform the elements of nature. The power of silence now has to be known and experienced in an even deeper way. The more powerful you become with this power, the more you will continue to experience the importance and greatness of the power of silence. At present, you are experiencing through the power of words and the power of the facilities of service. And through this experience, you are achieving success. However, the power of silence is very much greater than the power of words and the physical facilities of service. The means of the power of silence is also elevated. Just as you use pictures, projectors, and videos as a means of service through words, in the same way, the means of the power of silence are pure thoughts, good wishes, and the language of the eyes. Just as you give the introduction of the Father and the creation through the language of words, in the same way, on the basis of the power of silence and with the language of the eyes, you can give an experience of the Father. Just as you show images through the projector, in the same way, you can clearly show the sparkling image of yourself and the Father in the center of your forehead. Just as at present, you give people an experience of the pilgrimage of remembrance through words, in the same way, with the power of silence, your face will automatically give the experience of the different stages of remembrance. Those who have that experience will easily feel that at that time they are experiencing the seed stage, or that they are experiencing the angelic stage, or they will automatically experience various virtues through your powerful face. Just as through words, you enable souls to have feelings of love and cooperation, in the same way, when you yourself have good wishes and are stable in the stage of love, then whatever your feelings are, you will enable those same feelings to arise in them. Your good wishes will ignite their feelings. Just as a lamp ignites a lamp, in the same way, your powerful good wishes will easily make the most elevated feelings arise in others. Just as you now carry out all the physical tasks through words, in the same way, you can just as easily carry out and enable others to carry out any physical task with the elevated method of the power of silence, that is, with the power of pure thoughts. Just as the facilities of the power of science are the telephone and wireless, in the same way, these pure thoughts will give you the experience of speaking directly, face to face, or like having a task carried out through the phone or the wireless. These are the specialities of the power of silence. The power of silence is no less. However, because you use the power of words and physical facilities a lot more, you find that easy. You haven't yet experimented with the methods of the power of silence, and this is why you haven't got that experience. You find the other way easy and this one difficult. However, according to the transformation of time, you will definitely have to use the methods of the power of silence. Therefore, O elevated souls, bestowers of peace, gain experience of the power of silence. So this was Bap Dada asking us, saying, therefore, O elevated souls, bestowers of peace, gain experience of the power of silence. This is the direction Baba has given us today now. Just as by practicing with words, you have become powerful in words, in the same way, continue to become more practiced in the power of silence. As you progress further, you won't have time to serve through words or physical facilities. At such a time, the methods of the power of silence will be necessary, because that which is greatly powerful will also be extremely subtle. Shall I read this again? Yeah.
Sure.
It's good. As you progress further, you won't have time to serve through words or physical facilities. So Baba says, at such a time, the methods of the power of silence will be necessary, because that which is greatly powerful will also be extremely subtle. So pure thoughts are more subtle than words. And this is why the impact of the subtle will be powerful. Even now, you are experienced in that, where the power of words cannot carry out a task. You say, this one will not understand through words. He will only be transformed through pure feelings. Where words cannot make a task successful, the experience of mercy and love through the means of the power of silence, pure thoughts, good wishes, and the language of the eyes can accomplish a task. So, task through silence, Baba says, can give you more success than the words. Even now, when someone who debates a lot comes through words, he would debate even more. Therefore, you make that one sit in remembrance and give him the experience of the power of silence. Do you not? So if someone is arguing or debating too much, Baba says, even now you experience that when you stay in silence. If he then experiences peace for even a second through remembrance, he himself will surrender his debating intellect in front of the experience of silence. So continue to increase the experience of the power of silence. As yet, there is very little experience of this power of silence. So Bap Dada has drawn our attention, given us a result. As yet, there is very little experience of this power of silence. The majority of you have only experienced as little as a drop of the sweetness of the power of silence. So the majority of you have only experienced as little as a drop of the sweetness of the power of silence. O bestowers of peace, your devotees ask your non-living images for peace more than anything else, because happiness is merged in peace. They only experience that for a short time. So Bap Dada was seeing how many souls have the experience of the power of silence, how many souls speak about it, and how many souls experiment with it. So Bap Dada was seeing how many souls have the experience of the power of silence, how many souls speak about it, and how many souls experiment with it. For this, there is a need to become, do you remember the title heading Baba started? Become introverted and to stay in solitude. It is easy to come into extroversion. However, according to the time, now a lot of practice of being introverted is required. Some children say that they don't have time to be in solitude, that they don't have time to experience the stage of introversion because the activities of service and of the power of words have increased a lot. However, there is no need to find half an hour or an hour at a time for this, Baba says. While in the midst of the activities of service, you can find that much time in between in which you can experience being in solitude. To be in solitude means to stabilize yourself in any one powerful stage. You can become stable in the seed stage, become stable in the stage of a lighthouse or a might house. That is, you can become stable in the stage of being one who gives light and might to the world. Through the angelic stage, give others the experience of the Avyak stage. If you concentrate on this stage for even 1 second or 1 minute, then having this stage for even 1 minute can give you and others a lot of benefit. You just need to practice this. Now, who is there who would not have time for even a minute? Bap Dada asked. Who is there who would not have time for even a minute? When the system of traffic control started, some used to think, how is this possible? You know, where we used to have traffic control every 4 hours, and then every hour came, Baba, these traffic lights, Baba pointed out, I think it was in 82 or 83, there's a Murli that Baba suggested to build up the yoga and the stage. And so now Baba says, when the system of traffic control started, some used to think, how is this possible? The activity of service is very big and you remain busy. However, since you kept the aim, it has become possible. That program is continuing, is it not? Do you have this program of traffic control at the centers, or do you sometimes miss traffic control and sometimes have it? So Baba has questioned it to check whether you still continue or not. This too is a system of the Brahmin clan. It is a discipline. Just as you consider other disciplines to be essential, in the same way, this too is necessary for progress of the self, for success in service, and for the atmosphere of the center. So the benefit of that, Baba says, this discipline. So Baba says, just as we consider other disciplines to be essential, in the same way, this too is necessary for progress of the self, for success in service, and for the atmosphere of the center. So by keeping the aim of having the practice of being introverted and in solitude with the deep love from your heart, find time to do this from time to time. Those who know the importance of this will automatically find time. If there isn't that importance given to it, you won't find that time. To stabilize your mind and intellect in a powerful stage is to be in solitude. To stabilize your mind and intellect, we can practice even now while we can become the form of that while listening. You know, Dadi Gulzar always said, when you listen to the Murli, become the form of that point. This is how they became the point, the embodiment. Isn't that to stabilize your mind and intellect in a powerful stage is to be in solitude. You saw Sakar Brahma Baba. The sign of coming close to perfection was that while in service, while listening to news, he used to go into solitude. You experienced this, did you not? He would understand the news of 1 hour in its essence in 5 minutes and would make the children happy and also give them the experience of his stage of introversion and solitude. The sign of perfection is that he experienced the stage of introversion and solitude while walking and moving around and while listening and doing things. So, Baba says, are you not able to follow the Father? Does anyone have greater responsibility than that which Father Brahma had? Father Brahma never said that he was too busy, but he became an example in front of the children. Now, according to the time, there is a need for this practice. While having all facilities of service, there will be a need to serve through the power of silence, because the power of silence is a power that gives an experience. Mostly with the power of words, the arrow only hits as far as the head, whereas the arrow of experience reaches the heart. So, according to the time, there will be the cry, give us an experience for just a second. Those who are tired of listening and speaking will come. With the methods of the power of silence, you will be able to take them beyond with a glance. With your pure thoughts, you will be able to end the waste thoughts of souls. So this is also, you know, words underlining. With your pure thoughts, you will be able to end the waste thoughts of souls. So that much attention on the self. With your pure thoughts, you will be able to end waste thoughts of souls. With your pure feelings, you will enable their feelings of love for the Father to emerge. Only when you make those souls content with the power of silence will they sing praise in front of you souls who are the living bestowers of peace. Baba says, "Oh, bestower of peace, oh, bestower of peace." He said twice. Then, by carrying this last sanskar with themselves, they will become devotee souls in the copper age and sing this praise in front of your non-living images. Baba will tell you at some other time about the importance of traffic control and also how necessary it is. However, know the power of silence for yourself and use it for service. Do you understand? Now Baba is talking to the group. Today, Punjab has come. In Punjab, there is importance of service to the power of silence. With the power of silence, you can make those with a violence, because at that time there was a war going. There was a lot of upheaval and a lot of sorrow and fear. And that's why Baba is saying that today Punjab has come. In Punjab, there is importance of service to the power of silence. With the power of silence, you can make those with a violent attitude non-violent. You saw at the time of the beginning of establishment how those who had a violent attitude were transformed in front of the spiritual power of silence. So it is the power of silence that will quieten those with a violent attitude. Shailen has often, quite a few times, given example of Jagdishpai when Mama was there and they were going to kill. They went with the intent of killing, because they were very against Brahma Kumaris at the time. And so Mama, when they saw, they melted, they just bowed down, they prostrated. And that was the power of yoga and silence. That's what Baba is referring to, that it transformed in front of the spiritual power of silence. So it is the power of silence that will quieten those with a violent attitude. They are just not ready to listen to words. When a wave of heat or cold is able to spread everywhere with the power of nature, then can the waves of silence not be spread everywhere by the lords of nature? So Baba looks up to us with such a high vision that we are Prakriti Pati. In Hindi is Prakriti Pati, means the Lord of the nature. So Baba says, the outside, we have all had an experience of heat wave, and then sometimes it was so cold, snow, it was extremely cold. And so Baba is giving the example. Baba is saying, when a wave of heat or cold is able to spread everywhere with the power of nature, then can the waves of silence not be spread everywhere by the lords of nature? So Baba is giving us another title, Prakriti Pati, lords of the nature. Instruments of science can transform a very hot atmosphere into a cool atmosphere. So can spiritual power not transform souls? So what did those from Punjab hear? Everyone should feel the vibrations of someone with a treasure store of peace, giving them rays of peace. It is Punjab that has been given time to do such service. You hold functions and exhibitions anyway, but experience this power and also give others this experience. Your mind needs to have a concentrated and powerful attitude. So Baba gave us all the method. Your mind needs to have a concentrated and powerful attitude. So pure thoughts, pure feelings, pure attitude, pure and powerful, concentrated attitude. The more powerful a lighthouse is, the further it can send its light. So this is the time for those from Punjab to experiment with this power. Do you understand? So Baba is speaking to us now. So this instruction is for everyone, for us now to experiment and do that. And to become like Bab Saman, go to Baba's room and experiment this. So this is the time for those from Punjab to experiment with this power. Do you understand? Acha. Then is another second group, a group from Andhra Pradesh. So I think it's central India, I think, has also come. What will you do? You will quieten the storms. Many storms come in Andhra. In order to quieten the storms, the power of silence is needed. Human souls are left wandering in storms. So, to give wandering souls the destination of peace is the special service of those from Andhra. When they end up wandering physically, first it is their minds that wander, and then the bodies wander. When their mind is fixed, stable, their intellect will work for the support of the body. If the mind is not stable, then the intellect doesn't work even for the physical facilities required for the body. Therefore, in order to put everyone's mind at rest, use this power. Both Punjab and Andhra have to be saved from storms. There they have storms of violence, and the other has the storms of the ocean. So in Punjab there was violence, and Andhra Pradesh is near the sea, or I don't know, I think Brahmaputra Nadi, rivers, and they really swell up during monsoon, especially rainy season. And so Baba is saying they have storms of the ocean. There it is from the people, in Punjab, the people are violent. And there it is from matter, nature was. However, there are storms in both places. Give the gift of silence to those who have storms. The gift will transform the storms. Acha. To all the elevated souls everywhere who are bestowers of peace, to all the great introverted souls everywhere, to the elevated karma yogi souls who always come into action while in solitude, to the elevated yogi souls who always experiment with the power of silence, Bap Dada's love, remembrance, and namaste. There's a blessing after that. Shall I read that blessing?
Okay.
And then there's, we normally have blessing after the Murli, and so there's a blessing. May you be a confluence-aged, elevated, fortunate soul who becomes merged in the lap of God's remembrance. The confluence age is more elevated than the golden age because the praise of the present time is that nothing is lacking in the world of Brahmins. You found the one Father and you found everything. Now you children sometimes swing in the swing of supersensuous joy, sometimes in happiness, sometimes in peace, sometimes in knowledge, sometimes in bliss, and sometimes in the swing of, this is really beautiful, God's lap. So bliss and God's, sometimes in the swing of God's lap. This lap of God is the stage of being lost in love through remembrance. This lap enables you to forget the sorrow and pain of many births in a second. So always keep this elevated world in your awareness and become a fortunate soul. And the slogan, become so worthy that Baba sings your songs and you sing Baba's songs. Om Shanti. So today's Murli was about our life is like a diamond. And so this blessing, and also today's slogan was about becoming, 1+3 means retirement, isn't it? So Baba was saying, and make others. So it was about silence, going beyond, going. So this was all. We got so many titles, so much. It's very rich, isn't it? Slowly, I enjoyed it really.
Would anyone like to share any reflections on the morning?
Yes, Om Shanti to the
Om Shanti.
to the beautiful Saturday family.
Om Shanti Mariabel.
And I'll take advantage of the vehicle which has been parked. And thank you, Ranjan, Ben, for also adding the treat of the blessing. When Baba reminds us that we are, that this age is more important, the diamond age is more precious than the golden age, and that in the golden age we cannot sit in the God's lap, also because we don't know about God. Happiness is something natural. Soul consciousness is something even unconscious. And so whereas here we are aware of the cycle, and like even the blessing says, there's nothing lacking in this age. And then also I was touched by the phrase, happiness is peace. No? So if there is peace, there is happiness, and vice versa. Because for us, happiness means, for the Lokics, happiness means making a lot of noise, jumping around and celebrating and balloons and all these things. But for us, it's another aspect. Even silence, even solitude. Solitude, as Baba reminds us, does not mean being like the hermits going on the mountains and leaving the family. Silence means being even in the midst of noise, even in the midst of the family, the Lokic and non-Brahmin family. And so it's so interesting. One thing I wanted to mention was when Baba goes into silence, even during Avyak Murli, and then he goes outside and stays silent for a few minutes, and then says, "I just went to give blessings to the devotees." So when he says, I'm here, but I just left for a few minutes, a few seconds, because I am giving blessings to the devotees. Devotees will probably never become Brahmins, but have been giving enough in order to deserve something from God. So Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
The parking is over.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Can I just come in? Baba said happiness and peace, because our innate purity first, and the purity is the mother of peace and happiness. And peace and happiness as children. Dadi Janki Hamisha lots of times has mentioned she has 3 children, isn't it? What peace, happiness, and
Well, she used to say, so the story there is that when Daddy was traveling on aeroplanes, people sitting near to her in the plane would introduce themselves and ask. And she remembered one sister was very proud that she was married to a president of a company, I think, or something like that. And so she said, "Oh yes, my husband is so-and-so." And she also had important children. So she was very proud of being the mother of these 2 children. So Daddy heard her, and and she asked Daddy, "Well, are you married? Do you have children?" And Daddy said, "Oh yes, I'm married to God, and I have 2 very good children, happiness and peace." But then I think she added into that joy as well. She added in later on, she realized she has a third child as well. So, yeah.
Shanti.
Shanti.
Baba referred to science and silence. They go hand in hand because even with the scientists, they go into that silence first when they're doing any invention. And it shows the importance of how silence is. I think we spend more time into sound because, you know, if we were here from the beginning, we spend more time into sound. And so that's why it's so important for us Brahmins. We practice going beyond sound now at the conference age because it has a lot of power within it. And Baba wants us to, you know, make use of that power because we're going to need it. It's going to last us for the next 5,000 years. So yes, the importance of silence is up there.
Yes, I'd like us to continue this topic for a few weeks because just hearing this morally, there was a lot in it, you know, to unpack really. And what we're hearing from Baba is that silence isn't just about being beyond sound, but he said silence is your main weapon. And then as Barbara Ben was just saying, like, the creative power of silence, because scientists are inventing things, creating things. And Baba is saying that silence is actually creative. Then he was talking to us about silence as transformative. You can transform situations. You can transform soul's attitude. You can transform circumstances. Then he said you can transform even nature, purify. So silence as a purifier, silence as a transformer, and then silence as a protector. So he said that with Mama and Baba, there was all sorts of challenges came their way, but they used the power of silence to protect themselves and everyone else. And then he's speaking to the brothers and sisters from Punjab, from Andhra, and they're having different challenges in those places at that time. And he's saying to both of them, it's the power of silence that's going to work here. It can even transform violent people's attitude into non-violent. It can give clarity of mind. So he was saying, like we're seeing at the moment, for example, in Pakistan, horrendous flooding. And of course, how does your mind stay clear? I mean, you just panic. You just get depressed, overwhelmed. And Baba's saying, then your intellect doesn't work. You don't take the right decisions for your own body. You don't take the right decisions for your family. So what people need is to keep their minds clear in the midst of these challenges. So you children have to actually use the power of silence to quieten other souls' minds. Give them the donation of peace. So then Baba said, silence as a blessing. Oh, bestowers of peace, you are the special deities, and souls will have this experience and be left with this sanskar of receiving this blessing of peace. He said, you've got to stay with your stock of silence and bestow peace into these. So there's a lot to unpack in this, Murli, and I'll probably hear it again. And let's carry on experimenting that silence from the soul world and the subtle regions is a substance. And then when that substance is absorbed, drawn, it's accumulated in this world, it seems to then develop other properties. The properties of protection, transformation, purification, creativity. So Baba gave us his verdict on our experiments, that most of you have only experienced a drop of the ocean of silence, of what is actually capable, that your capabilities through the power of silence, you're only, in our expression, we would say you're only scratching the surface at the moment. There's a lot more you can achieve, but you don't actually believe you can, because you're so used to using words and actions that for us, service means arranging a hall, doing a lecture, putting a leaf. We get into that, and Baba's saying, well, actually, it's going to be more through the power of silence than anything else. So begin to actively use the power of silence. In fact, the silence is more a passive thing. It's an absence of something. And for the average person, silence is frightening. It's it's connected with a loneliness. It's connected with an emptiness. But this is not that silence. This is a very full silence. And so it's that silence that needs to be experienced by souls. Otherwise, they don't even realize that such a silence exists. Okay, let's stop there, unless someone's got any final comments that I'd like to make.
Shanti, I just wanted to, and it's taking us back to this level, but with the death of Queen Elizabeth, how those who are, say, looking in the line of the state, laying state of her, oh gosh, her laying state, how silence seemed to have descended in many ways onto the population. I don't know how this came about. Maybe it's just because it's death and it's who has died, but it's really palpable and an interesting observation how the people have just naturally become silent compared to how they usually are. And even watching it on the TV, you can feel the silence and how much everybody seems to be benefiting from it. So it's almost like it's an intrinsic part of the soul that just automatically comes out in situations like this.
Yes, I think you could be right. And Ranjan Ben raised a really interesting point during Murli this morning, that she felt that the Queen was also in an incognito way powerfully praying a lot in her life.
Yes.
So she was the head of the Church of England. And when you're in that position, you're leaning upwards to God. You know, you're leaning upward. So perhaps it was the accumulation of her silent prayers that, as you say, Baba does refer to these types of things in the Murlis, that he witnessed some sannyasis that when they left the body, there was a silence that was spread. And you're right that some people in their funeral actually can be very noisy. Like it's not silent at all, and it can be very different, can be very distraught as well. But you're right. And it is quite remarkable, this soul, isn't it? I mean, they've closed the queues now. There's a 24-hour queue to get to the coffin. So it's stretching miles and miles across London just to queue, and people are doing it. So it is remarkable. So I thought that was a good point from Ranjan Ben this morning.
And I was listening to the news this morning, and a few ladies, they said, oh, we had 2-3 seconds, 3 minutes silence, but that silence, even they experienced the silence there. And then now the the journalists asked that the scientists are going to research that why do the people, so they're going to, even like you say, Baba mentioned scientists, and now they're going to research into that as well, why people are so.
I suspect that because Britain is less religious as a culture, she probably didn't talk about her faith as much as, but probably she was very intensively a devotee. And so that's probably what is causing that atmosphere. good observation. So thank you, Chan Lalchan. Nice to meet you. Thanks for your message in the chat. Are you able to come on the microphone and share where you're from? I don't think we've met before.
She said, "Oh, shit, everyone."
Om Shanti, brother.
Om Shanti.
I'm from Trinidad,
Well,
and yeah, the Murli I thought was the main point was on transformation. Silence is transformation, and I think this is what Baba has come to do, to transform the souls, to transform the world. And I think that was a very, very important point in the Murli today, which I have taken. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great Murli as well. So I'll definitely hear it again. And Linda, Ben, great that you're able to join us later on as well. Om Shanti to you.
Om Shanti, special blessings to Rajan Ben.
Thank you. Baba has given us lots of titles. We can't complain now, can we?
No, we cannot. And the topic of silence is very, very, it has a lot of, there are so many facets of silence, but the deeper one is really what is needed right now in the midst of chaos. Om Shanti to everyone, special blessings too.
Yeah, Om Shanti, thank you. And so let's all carry on experimenting, and we're going to reconvene next Saturday and hear more. We'll hear more about your churnings. Think about everything we've covered today, churn on it further, and it's okay to change your mind as well. So allow yourself to churn and grow and experiment and continue to learn. Om Shanti, everyone. Have a great week.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, brother. Thank
Oh,
you.
yes. Yes, and next week we also have the Raj Yoga course. I'll put up another notice up. And so if you want to signpost anyone to attend that, you could do that as well. So Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Oh,
Is it possible to invite non-BKs?
Yes, it's for non-BKs, that course. Yeah.
Non-BKs. Oh, okay. Om Shanti, have a nice week.
You too. Om Shanti.